Labrīt! Cienījamas dāmas un godātie kungi! Prieks jūs visus redzēt šajā pasākumā, lai dalītos ar zināšanām un apspriestu atvērtas tehnoloģijas. Atvērta pirmkoda risinājumus un this will go on for a while. Un ieguvumus no tiem. En rosinu jūs lietot brīvu un legālu programmu nodrošinājumu katrā uzņēmumā un katrā datorā, un es vēlētos jūs iedvesmot veidot maksimālu pievienoto vērtību lietojot atvērtas tehnoloģijas. Mani sauc Arnö, un esmu Sun Microsystems viceprezidents datubāzu kopienas attiecībās. Es dzīvoju Minhenē, Vācijā, un es ļoti mīlu alu. Tomēr es neesmu vācietis. Es esmu no Somijas. Tāpat kā MySQL dibinātājs, vadītājs un daudzi MySQL kolēģi. Tāpat kā lielākā daļa manu kolēģu, kā arī Linus Torvalds, Linux izveidotājs, es esmu izņēmums vēl vienā ziņā. Mana dzimtā valoda nav somu, bet gan zviedru. MySQL un integrācijas laikā es spēlēju MySQL vēstnieka lomu, kas nozīmē tikai to, ka es skrienu no viena Sun biroja uz nākamo un skraidoju, kas ir MySQL. Tā kā es negribu sāpināt jūsu ausis pārāk ilgi. Kroplojot jūsu brīnišķīgo valodu, es ķeršos tieši pie 6 galvenajiem punktiem. Mans pirmais punkts – atvērtas pirmkods ir izmainījis datorprogrammu tirgu uz labāko pusi. Mazāka atkarība no viena piegādātājā. Vairāk atvērtas konkurences, lai labākā programmatūra uzvar ar labākajiem licencijas noteikumiem. Mans otrais punkts – atvērts pirmkods ir lielākās daļas, ja ne visu valstu ekonomiskajās intereses. Mans trešais punkts – atvērta pirmkoda programmatūra var izdarīt daudz vairāk, kā jūs domājat. Mans ceturtais punkts – inovācijas notiek atvērtajā pirmkoda kopienā. Tās seko no reālajām lietotāju vajadzībām, jo paši izstrādātāji ir arī lietotāji. Manus piektais punkts – ļoti daudz atvērta pirmkoda nāk no Sun. Faktiski Sun dod vislielāko apjomu atvērtā pirmkoda starp visām kompānijām. Mans sestais un beidzamais punkts. Viss tas ir pieejams jums šeit un tagad Latvijā. Šeit ir vairākas IT kompānijas, kas piegādā risinājumus un ir gatavas sniegt atbalstu biznesam dažādās sfērās. Jūs noteikti par to dzirdēsiet vairāk mūsu pēcpusdienas sesijās. Kā jau jūs noprotiet, es tik tiešām nerunāju latviski. Tas nozīmē, ka es turpināšu savu prezentāciju angļu valodā. Atvainojos par to, paldies par jūsu uzmanību tik tālu. Okay, that was the hard part. Let's now go for the slightly easier part for me, and that's about MySQL in the web economy. So that was the general part on open source, and I'm going to be a bit specific to MySQL and about web and Web 2.0. So the first question I'm going to look into is the role of the reason why MySQL has been bought by Sun. That happened in January, February this year. And it was a big deal, and of course people have asked, so why? Why did Sun buy MySQL? And there's a long list here. That's the official list prepared by the PR department, and it's truthful and correct, but I have a shorter way to explain it if we're having a glass of beer together and you ask me, so Kai, what's the real reason why Sun bought MySQL? And the short way to explain it is that we have the same culture but different customers. So we have the same attitude to innovations, to open source, to technology, to inventing stuff. And we work in the same way, which means that we were able to continue working in the way we did when we were an independent company while working for Sun. We didn't have to stop and ask Sun for permission how to do stuff nowadays. And we have different customers. This means that MySQL has got access now to the new customers that were big for Sun's side, but we didn't have access to, and vice versa. So MySQL is very present in the web, and that hasn't been a true strength for Sun in the last couple of years. So this means that we can work together and open doors for each other. And an example of how doors were opened for MySQL is a sales case sometimes in the spring where Jonathan Schwartz, the CEO of Sun, was present, because it was such a big and important customer, and he had to be there to signify the importance. And well, the discussion had gone well, and they had evidently sold some hardware, and then at the end he said, so I heard, I think that you've heard that we have just recently bought MySQL. Do you use MySQL? And then the CIO of that company said, no, we don't use MySQL. And then there was somebody else, a chief security officer or whatnot, somebody with security in his title and very important. He said that, well, as I'm sure you'll understand, we can't just allow anybody to download stuff off the web. One never knows where that would end up. It would be a security risk. Okay, thought Jonathan, perhaps that was not, you cannot win them all. This was a case where they didn't use MySQL. But then the sales guy, who was a bit pertinent, as sales guys often are, he said that, well, actually I talked to a colleague of mine at MySQL the other day, and he said that in your organization in the last 12 months, you've downloaded MySQL 1,300 times. That's a lot for a company that doesn't use MySQL and doesn't allow people for security reasons to download stuff. So of course now this then led to red faces and total silence in the room, and then somebody reporting to the CIO said, well, yes, actually, to be honest, we do use MySQL. We rely upon it for our new applications, and it's the favorite database when our developers themselves may decide what they use. So the moral of this story is that that door was opened through Sun. We, of course, knew about those 1,300 downloads, but if we had called them, they would have said, no, we don't use MySQL. So now there's a discussion going on with that company. And the reverse side of this, the why we open doors for Sun, is related to the web. So while on my next slide I point out that we still are the biggest in this LAMP stack with Linux, Apache, MySQL, and PHP, and Perl and Python, we are putting additional energy into working best on Sun, the Run Best on Sun initiative. So we will not in any way have fewer resources devoted to MySQL running under Linux, but we will add, or we have added, further resources on top of what we do in the LAMP stack to make MySQL run best on Sun, which then makes it attractive for MySQL customers to take a look at Sun hardware, which again is another proof point to why Sun bought us. So how many of you have heard about the LAMP stack? Okay, it's half or 2/3. It's the LAMP stack as a word was invented about 12 years ago by a German journalist who got tired of all the proprietary companies having 3 or 4 letter abbreviations for stuff that they wanted to sound more important than it is. And they wanted to use the same thing, or he wanted to use the same thing for open source. And he had noticed this trend that many applications on the web, new applications on the web at that time, 12 years ago, were building themselves upon Linux as an operating system, Apache as a web server, PHP and Perl as languages for development, and MySQL as a database, and he then just needed to sort them into the letters into an order that could be pronounceable. PMAL doesn't sound as catchy as LAMP, so he ended up with LAMP. And that is our sort of home territory in the sense that it's the one with which MySQL grew big. MySQL was not originally written under Linux. It was originally written under Solaris. And MySQL is not biggest in downloads under Linux. It is much bigger on Windows. We have much more Windows downloads. But deployment then usually happens on Linux or Solaris. So this is just quickly to show you that we fit into a big picture of other pieces of software and hardware and companies. And I just want to point out on this slide Glassfish and NetBeans as examples of Sun products where we have integrated better as a result of the acquisition. But we work very much with companies like Canonical who distribute Ubuntu and many others, so it's not tied to, we're not in that sense tied to improving our position only with other Sun products. So this is a way of asking the same question, but from your standpoint. So I answered the question why Sun bought us from the position of a Sun owner or Sun manager, but then the more relevant question for you is what do you get out of it? So you get performance and scale, and those are values that were important for MySQL from the very beginning to run quickly and to allow you to buy further servers on top of what you have if your application requires more resources. Now we have, as I said, better resources now to do that optimization, because we're not only limited to optimizing MySQL, we can also optimize the operating system in the case of Solaris and Open Solaris, and we can even optimize the hardware. And there's actually a performance laboratory who's at Sun who used to be dedicated to only or mainly just Oracle optimizations. Now they're dedicating themselves also to MySQL. So support, we have had global enterprise support and services earlier, but it's much easier now that we are part of Sun. I've traveled to many Sun offices around the world, as I tried to say in Latvian, and this means that we have access to much larger groups of people who are connected to Sun, and we can establish a local presence in a much better way. And the marketplace side is that we have an ecosystem around MySQL, an alliances team that has built up a partnership structure for MySQL, and of course there's a similar thing at Sun. And now these are combined, so if you are a partner either of formerly MySQL or of Sun, your ecosystem has just now grown and you have better opportunities. So this is sort of a main slide of the whole of the presentation, as the presentation is about Web 2.0. So if you ever wondered what the bubble looked like, well, that's the thing there at the bottom of the slide. Well, you can't probably see it in the back rows, but it's a curve that goes up like this, and then it goes slightly down, and then it grows again at a very fast pace. So the bubble was when in 2001 and 2002 the number of websites shrunk. So at the peak there, when the bubble burst, there were about 50 million websites in the world. And then it shrunk by a couple of million. But today we are at over 160 in March this year, and I think I had a look at it in August and it was 180 something. So this means that it really grows a lot, the demand of web. And the consequences of this is, of course, that everything happens online. Online can mean then on the web or on the mobile phone. And everybody is there. So the position that we try to support here for those who want to provide services over the online media is the last line here on the slide where it says fail fast, scale fast. So let's take the sad part first, the fail fast one. So if you have an idea about creating an application that you think is great, that people will want to use over the web, then you can't be sure that it's a great idea. So you put some of your time in it and some of your money for buying a small server and some web connectivity, and then you really want to test out whether your idea works or not. And if it doesn't work, well, the quicker you fail, the better, because then you can go on with the next idea. And also, very importantly, the less money you have had to spend in order to discover that the idea doesn't work, the better. And MySQL supports this fail fast scenario by the fact that you don't need to spend all that much money. You just need to spend the time in building up your application. And you can download MySQL off the web and use it. There's no license fee for that. There's no other costs related to it. The cost is related to buying your small server and connecting yourself to the web. And then you'll see whether you're failing or not. So let's now take the more positive scenario. You didn't fail and it grows. You have plenty of new visitors coming in and some money is pouring in because you were not just basing this on the idea that you get visitors. You also have a business idea on how to earn money on it. So then you also have a problem if it's growing. It's a pleasant problem. It's one that we want to have, but it still is a problem. You need to be able to scale. You need to be able to grow the application so that you won't lose your opportunity to the competition. Because if you have a great idea and then suddenly people can't get any credible response times from your website, well, then everybody else has understood that, hey, that's an opportunity and this guy's application is too slow. He doesn't know what he's doing, so I'll do it and a bit better. So somebody else is going to reap the benefits of what you did if you don't scale. And in this scale scenario, we support you in two ways. One, MySQL has replication, has other features related to making it easy for you to get new servers, get either bigger hardware or more hardware on your site without having to re-architect the whole thing. And then the other way in which we support you is that you can enter a commercial relationship with us where we support you. So there's a subscription service directed at those people who now are in the fortunate position to have more money than time. This was something that Matthias touched upon earlier as well. We as a company, Sun Microsystems, want to be the right solution for two categories of people. The community and the enterprises, to simplify it. The community has more time than they have money. And the enterprises have more money than they have time. So for the first phase, we offer a complete solution for people to build a system where they don't need to invest any money in the relationship or in the licenses or in anything. But then when they deploy, they hit some pain points that are of a positive nature because they want to grow their application and they have users. And there we have solutions that simplify life, that ease the monitoring of the applications, that help solve the problems that only you as a company would have. So that's the scale fast part of it. So this is a slide which in a very compact mode describes in which way MySQL is different. The online database, how it disrupts stuff. So one way of putting it a bit arrogantly is to say that we have changed the rules. Well, changing the rules usually implies using some kind of violence or other not so polite methods. I think that's not what we're after here. What we're after is we've picked a couple of trends that are important and use those trades for your benefit. So the first trend is internet that grew big about at the same time as MySQL grew big. So MySQL started in roughly 95, and that's when the first big wave of adoption came for internet outside an academic community. And that's the lowermost and the dark blue circle there, the software deployment model. So the software deployment model is that we distribute our software over the web. Well, today you say, so what? Of course it's a so what today when everything happens over the web, but it was not a so what when we were starting. Then it was a significant way of being different, being disruptive, because we did not have to burn CDs and we did not have to have people sending out these CDs and taking orders and whatnot. We just put the stuff out on the web for everybody to download, and created some buzz about the existence of that database, and it deployed itself. Well, that's just the deployment phase to get users, but then we need some money in order to continue working as well, and that's the business model, top right. So that's based on the fact that the writers of MySQL owned all of the copyright to MySQL. Well, that's no different from what most companies have, but it's different from what Linux has. So Linus Torvalds wrote the first parts of Linux, and then he got some contributions by Lars Wirsenius, and then he got some contributions by others, and soon enough there was a huge following of contributors, which is a good thing as such, but which also means that he doesn't own Linux in the way that MySQL owned MySQL the database, and now Sun owns MySQL. And through this ownership, we have the opportunity to do whatever we want with the code, including to sell it. Well, one of the things we want to do is we want to give it away to you for free using the GPL license. So you can use it according to the GPL, you can modify it, you can open it, you can change it, you can give it to your neighbor, and you can give a changed version to your neighbor, and so on. But it also has something called copy left, which limits your rights. So there are occasions under which people cannot use MySQL. And one such thing would be the case of Adobe, where Adobe has inside Photoshop, they are using MySQL. But for some reason, I can't really imagine why, they don't want to make Photoshop GPL. And then still they have the option of using MySQL inside it because they bought commercial licenses from us. So their usage of MySQL inside Photoshop is not limited by the GPL because they are not using the GPL version of MySQL. They're using the functionality-wise identical version, so it doesn't have more functionality, but it has a different legal framework, a different license. And through that licenses, we get some money, we can finance our further development, so it's of a benefit for everybody. It's of a benefit for Adobe, who can get the software easily accessible and integrate it without any complexities and at a low cost. It's of a benefit for us because we get financing that way, and it even is of a benefit for those who use MySQL under the GPL because they then get the benefit of the new features that we develop on top of MySQL, be it for Adobe or others. Our business model nowadays is less based on the fact of selling MySQL to licensees who redistribute it. It's more based on subscriptions. So we sell subscription services, quite like Red Hat does on Linux. So that's a similarity between us and other open sources nowadays. But we also, in the business model, started from this dual licensing. Then another way in which we are disruptive is the software development model. So we develop software open source, and open source means that this company such as a company such as Adobe can use it freely. We don't need in their development they can use it freely. We don't need to establish a client relationship with them where they sign an NDA that they get access to an early version of MySQL and they may try it, and we have to limit it in a very specific way, and then we consume lots and lots of resources which are not at all related to the improvement of MySQL or of Photoshop. It's just overhead. That's something that is disappearing totally. So that's part of what makes our software development model different. Another part is that the quality assurance doesn't happen just at MySQL. It happens even more so at the customer side. Well, okay, that could be the case for those who claim that they release GA products, and then after starting to use the product, you would get a bug or a blue screen of death or something. So others are using the idea of letting the customers test the quality, but we actually try at least to make it the users, the community users, those who have more time than money, who find the bugs which are in a combination of hardware and software that we haven't been able to test internally. So that's how we differ in the software development model. And finally, the organizational model means that we have recruited people anywhere in the world based on their knowledge of MySQL, their skill in serving customers, regardless of their position. So they didn't have to move to Finland or Uppsala, Sweden, or Cupertino, California to start working for us. They work from home. And I work from home. 70% of the people working for MySQL at the point of acquisition worked from home. And now we've even deleted our head offices in Cupertino, so there hardly are any offices left any longer specific to MySQL. When we need offices, we use those of Sun. So those were some of our ways in which we develop software differently, or we compete with our other database vendors. This slide will describe to you how our user base looks, or rather, this is not our user base, this is our customer base. And those are two different things. Users for us, we use the word users for those who just use us regardless of whether they pay or not. And customers, well, these are the customers, they are the ones who give us money so that we can pay. Our salaries can be paid, and we can continue to grow financially. And the first category is the one that you probably know the best. So those are the customers like Google or Wikipedia, Facebook, eBay, Flickr, YouTube, Yahoo. Those are the ones that people usually associate with MySQL. And rightly so, because the 20 biggest websites of the world run with out of the 20 biggest websites, 16 run with MySQL. Some of the others are owned by Microsoft, and I think that's a bit of a hard sell to make them also run on MySQL. And the second category here is also something I already described. It can be symbolized here by Adobe. So those are the software developers who install or who sell their own software with MySQL as an invisible part of it. So those two are covered, and those two are very important ones for us. But let's now look at the other three. So number 3 here is software as a service, such as Right Now. Right Now is a company who hosts your customer relationship management data. So it hosts also your data and your software. You don't install their product, you just use the product off the web. And it's based on MySQL, so they are our customers in order to make sure that they have a high uptime and good scalability and everything works. GoDaddy is an internet service provider where you can not just use them for internet access, you can also host your application there where you can use MySQL, one of their copies of MySQL. So you can make a MySQL application over the web without needing yourself to own a server. GoDaddy does it, and again, to make these solutions scalable, they are a customer of ours. The fourth category here is telecommunications, and that's actually an exception in two ways. First of all, it is a sector where MySQL and Sun have both been successful for long. So Nokia Siemens Network is the biggest customer, probably both of Sun, and was the biggest one of MySQL in Finland specifically. And in other countries, of course, this sector is not necessarily as big as in Finland, but it is still an important sales target for us. We have companies like Vodafone and Alcatel-Lucent and Ericsson and so on. And to these companies we sell a clustering product called MySQL Cluster, which is for high availability and scalable solutions. It's an in-memory database. And then the last category is a very interesting one. We call it Enterprise 2.0, and that's because it sounds nice, but it also is because it's descriptive of what that category really is. So it's enterprises such as Puma, who sell shoes, or Associated Press, who's a press company, Shinsei Bank, one of the biggest Japanese banks, and Rikspolisstyrelsen, which is the Swedish national police. So what do these have in common? Those four sounded to be very different. Well, their commonality bases itself on two things. They are more or less traditional enterprises, so they are not specifically centered in any way around the web. So that's the one commonality. The other part is described by 2.0 here. So their internal applications have a similar architecture to the external architecture of the Web 2.0 companies. So they provide their internal, shall we say, internet services, or all of their internal applications, or a large portion of their internal applications, using an architecture that is very similar to Web or Web 2.0. And there, of course, it's a natural solution for them to use MySQL. So for these customers in the last category in particular, and also let's say categories 3 and 5, 1, 3 and 5, what we sell is MySQL Enterprise. And that is not a license, it is a subscription. It's a subscription that includes three things. It includes the MySQL Enterprise server, it includes the MySQL Enterprise Monitor, and it's including human support. So the Enterprise server is the same server as the community server, only it has more frequent updates with bug fixes, such as monthly rapid updates and quarterly service packs. Monitoring refers to a number of capabilities delivered in the form of software on top of the MySQL server. So it's not part of the MySQL server, it's software that manages it in one way or another, and that's actually not open source software to the extent we're talking about software here. It is something that only the paying customers get. So or MySQL Enterprise in general is the answer to your question. So why should I become a customer? Why should I pay for the stuff that I can download for free? So this is the answer for what to buy if you are in the category of enterprises where you have resources that are limited, also time-wise, not just money-wise. And that's, well, having more money than time usually means that you're a well-organized company. So this is what we're offering to them. Yes, I forgot the third part, the support part. That is answers to your specific questions related to MySQL or specific problem situations. It's not that we drive to your office and come and sit at your table and help you physically on the same place. We do all of that over the web or over the phone. So it's based on our support team being local to where they live, not being local to your position. We do also have training. We do also have professional services where we actually visit you and help you on site. Those are not part of the MySQL Enterprise subscription. They are additional offerings that we have. Another way of describing this MySQL Enterprise is through this inner circle and the outer ring. So the inner half circle here in yellow, that's what you get if you are MySQL community user. You get MySQL community server, and that's sufficient for you to go live. But you get help if you buy MySQL Enterprise. So you get these hotfixes and service packs, you get the support, you get this monitoring stuff that I mentioned, and then also the ones in white. Those are the ones that you will be getting soon. Soon can mean still this year, but at least very early next year, you will get the query analyzer, which is more or less a must-have application in an area where you want to optimize your way of working, because it identifies the slow queries and it helps you in that way optimize your application. It also has a load balancer, an enterprise manager, and advanced backup features, and then they will come later. So there's a number of customer examples here. This is Puma, the web shop, where they have their web shop, both the customer and product data and the the stuff you buy, you order them into a shop cart with MySQL, and they use it because of low total cost of ownership. The other companies here are probably not that relevant for the Latvian market. I recommend you to look at our website, where we have plenty of these use cases where you can look at something that is more similar to you. I say that the common denominator for why to use MySQL is based on our 3 core product values, which are stability, performance, and ease of use. And they reduce the cost of ownership. Stability, because you get less downtime, and if you have an online shop, you really want it to be online and not offline. An offline shop is equal to something entirely different, and then you don't need the web or MySQL in the same way. And then stability, that was stability. So the performance part means that you can get more transaction out of 1 kilogram of metal. You can use older machines because you get more out of the hardware that you have. And that reduces cost, both when you're acquiring the hardware and when you're paying the electricity bill. Okay, electricity in Latvia is not perhaps that expensive, but in other places it definitely is a reason to reduce cost. And then the ease of use means that you can, with fewer people, you can manage the databases, because it's easy to download, easy to install, easy to configure, and easy to optimize. So finally, about the acquisition, last anecdote here. On 1st of April, they have a tradition at Sun that they have an April Fool's joke. And we thought, well, let's make ourselves the April Fool's joke of this year. So what we did was, in the night towards April 1st, we went to the Menlo Park offices of Sun, and this is a picture from there. And we had 450 dolphins with us, 1 dolphin for each MySQLer. And we tried to get past security, and we explained to them that this is 1st of April, and you know April's Fool's Day, and we want to blow these, have these dolphins there to symbolize every MySQLer and blah, blah, blah. And they said, okay, you can do that, but please make sure that you clean up after yourself in the afternoon. So then we came in and put all of these dolphins there, and at 8 o'clock, between 8 and 9, the Menlo Park Sun people came in, and they thought it was cute. And then when we came back 2 o'clock to clean up, there was nothing to clean up, because everybody had, every of these dolphins had been taken as a souvenir by the Sun employees. And I think for me this is a symbol that we fit into the right company. We think that we are very well taken care of by the rest of Sun, and Sun evidently reciprocates this feeling, because we would have some stuff to clean up if they wouldn't have wanted us there. So with that, I'd like to say Paldis, and if you want to read more, I have a blog aggregator there. It's so low that you hardly will see it, but I can repeat it. It's kaj.arno.fi, as in Finland. So that's my blog aggregator, and there you can read more on MySQL and other stuff if it interests you. Thank you.